What I'm most curious to know is where do you feel the finger might get pointed if things like supply shortages come into play, or delays in shipping come into play, or access isn't the way consumers are hoping for? Because it's a big gambit to go to a market of, let's say, 8 million, 10 million potential cannabis users in Canada, whatever you look at the demographics and what have you, and say, okay, on this day, at this time, cannabis is now legal, but here are all of the issues.
And only certain forms.
Yeah, and here are all of the issues getting that product. You might have to wait a little bit, you have to go online, you can only get this, there's only this supply, there's only that strain, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, how are LPs going to vote?
Well, I actually think the bigger, certainly yes, there's the issue with respect to supply shortages or not, and making sure that there's supply available in the various stores, and making sure that the consumer can actually get access to legal cannabis, so that you're doing an effective way of clamping down on the black market, which obviously is one of the goals here with respect to legalization. But I would actually say the two bigger pieces that speak to how this has moved forward, and I think ultimately, to a certain extent, there was a certain amount of you're just going to have to jump. No matter what you do, there was going to be certain folks who were always going to say this wasn't ready, or this wasn't ready in time, or so forth. And certainly getting a date, solidified minds and moved people in a particular direction and so forth. But two of the things I think we're seeing from non-LPs, from other companies, is certainly one, just greater concerns with respect to HR policies, or figuring out how does this work in the workplace. To a certain extent, I find this, I kind of chuckle at some of this stuff, because it's the expectation that, like, we've had alcohol for all this time, and we don't seem to be terribly concerned that everyone's going to show up drunk on Tuesday.
Yeah.
But now apparently we're all concerned that everyone is going to smoke up first thing in the morning, every morning. And what's that going to mean for the workplace? So I think there's a certain amount of reality that has to set in on this, but also I think there is the reality for a lot of employers out there that they haven't necessarily had explicit alcohol policies in place, and that they're now needing to do that because they're needing to address both the alcohol and the cannabis side of things. So there's a lot of HR issues in just sort of managing this in the workplace. And then the other part, and this was even actually highlighted by Premier Ford today when he spoke with the Association of Provincial Police, is the fact that we've got some roadside testing equipment out there. There's questions about whether or not it's a good piece of equipment, and there's not really certainty with respect to how well we can manage that part. So there's definitely a space for more technology to be able to better detect impairment, and that still needs to get out to market.